What we are facing today are drastic changes happening within a short period of time. Studies have been made, strategies are in place, technology is there. Now action is needed. We need to see results.
Welcome. My name is Shep Kreck. I teach in the Department of Anthropology courses both in anthropology and environmental studies, and I'm director of the Haffenreffer Museum, and I welcome you to what promises to be a wonderful two-day program. This is just the beginning of 2 days funded in memory of Barbara Greenwald, a longtime docent at the Haffenreffer Museum of Anthropology, and it's called the Barbara Greenwald Memorial Arts Program. This is the first part of it is mentioned here in Manning Hall, and tomorrow we have events at the Haffenreffer Museum in Bristol, and Kevin Smith, who is Deputy Director of the Haffenreffer Museum and Chief Curator, will just say a word or two about those.
Thanks, Shep, and thanks all. The Barbara Greenwald Memorial Arts Program is a program which is intended not only to bring dedicated scholars in the arts of the native North America and the rest of the world to Brown, but also to be a participatory event and an event which allows us to explore the world of the arts around the world in an interactive way. And so the second part of the program, which will be tomorrow and Sunday from 10 to 4 at the Haffenreffer Museum's galleries in Bristol, which is about 19 miles away from here, will involve Peter Irniq, our speaker tonight, who's not only a political leader, an environmentalist, a hunter, an activist, he's also an artist. And he will be building an inukshuk, a stone human-like form on the grounds of the Haffenreffer Museum, which will join a number of others that he has built for the Peabody Essex Museum, for the Canadian Consulate, for the Heard Museum, the Hood Museum at Dartmouth, the Field Museum at Juno Beach to memorialize Aboriginal people who fought in the Second World War. So we feel very honored to have him working with us tomorrow to do that, and we invite all of you to come down as well and to be part of that experience as we create a new monument on the grounds at Mount Hope. Shep.
Thanks, Kevin. I should have said welcome, especially not just to our usual audience from the university and the community, but to parents. And thank you, all you parents in the room, for having sent your children, sons and daughters, or for having agreed with them that Brown is a great place to be for several years. It's a pleasure for me to introduce at this moment my distinguished colleague, Osvaldo Sala, who in turn will introduce our speaker. Professor Sala is a professor in the Department of Biology at Brown, but he's also director of the Center for Environmental Studies and director of the university's Environmental Change Initiative. This initiative facilitates interdisciplinary research and teaching on the climatic and environmental changes that today are so severe in the north and that are even being felt in temperate zones where we are now. A prolific author, an international leader in ecological science and in global environmental policy, and a member of the American Academy of Arts and Sciences, Professor Sala also happens to be one of the major lead authors of the very important Millennium Ecosystem Assessment. It's particularly appropriate, I think, that he is a specialist in the study not just of biodiversity, but of ecosystem functioning in arid and semi-arid ecosystems like Patagonia that he knows very well, or for that matter, like the Arctic. Professor Sala.
Thank you for that nice introduction. It's an honor for all of us to have Peter Irniq with us here. I think he has had such a stellar career. Throughout his career, he has accomplished what 5 of 10 of us would accomplish in our entire lives. He did it all, and he did so many things. He was born in an Arctic town in Canada, and he got his first job in an elected position in 1975. And since then, he's been representing his people in different positions. In the year 2000, for example, he became the first commissioner of this new territory in Canada, of the Nunavut territory. He always represented his people. He's been also articulating the needs of the culture of his people. And I think his visit is terrific because I think we are at a turning point in social perception of climate change. My impression is that after so many years that we were sort of hesitating about, is climate change real, is not? I mean, some of us never did, but society at large was. I mean, not very long ago, I think like probably a year ago, I was watching a TV program, and they were on climate change, and there were two camps. Is it real or not? I mean, they were given sort of 50-50%. Imagine like we have a TV program where we say the earth is flat or it's not. I mean, so somebody's representing the earth is flat, the other one is showing some images that the earth is not flat. But that was where we were sort of a year ago. We were saying, is the earth flat or not? And now I think because of a combination of events that I'm not sure what they are, is because Al Gore got the Nobel Prize, is because of the fires in the West, their frequency increased, is because of the Katrina, is because of all those things that happened simultaneously, is because of the decrease in the ice coverage in the Arctic, is it because of the decrease of the ice, the glaciers all over the world? Why? I don't know. But certainly it's a change in perception. And now we shift from asking ourselves, is this real or not, or to how we can respond. What is that we can do to either mitigate or adapt to climate change? Those are two different things, but are clearly related. The sooner we start mitigating, the less expensive will be to adapt. If we wait 10 years to start mitigating, we're going to have to pay much more as a society to adapt. And Brown is not isolated from that trend. Brown is aware of the importance of climate change, research, and education, and how eager our students are. I think that usually our younger students are among the first ones to sense those changes in the society, and they are eager to learn and eager to act. And Brown has created the Environmental Change Initiative that is an interdisciplinary initiative trying to articulate the different parts of Brown that deal with climate change. And that include from the geological sciences, the biology, to the social sciences. And from trying to understand the mechanisms, how ecosystems are going to be affected, to the ways that we are going to need to adapt. So, Peter, thank you very much for coming to Brown, and this is a great time for all of us. Thank you.
Namik, Nakokmik, Matna. A few words in Inuksuit dialects to say thank you. Providence, Rhode Island, Minama, Huviasukpunga. That means I am happy to be in Providence, Rhode Island. This morning, as I always do, whenever I have to speak at home or in the world, I always speak to my father. He died back in 1971. I speak to him because I always want to make sure that I do not offend my audiences. I do not offend the world with what I have to say about the topic or about the things that I want to do. I want to work on his behalf and my ancestors to make friends, to do networking between different people in the world. So that's what I was speaking to my father about this morning. Thank you for your generosity. I am very touched and honored by that introduction. Thank you very much. I would also like to thank Brown University, Canadian Consulate, and Haffenreffer for me to build an inukshuk on your grounds. Whenever I say something in any society in Canada, in the world, especially to our young people at home, I always want to leave something behind. Information, knowledge that they can use, they can remember for themselves, for their future. Nunavut was created or negotiated with the Government of Canada over a period of 29 years. The idea of a new territory was to make sure that we Inuit regain control of our lives, our education, our wildlife, our culture and language, and our social and economic development. Inuit of the then Northwest Territories wanted to call their own land their home, as we have always done since time immemorial. The Inuit elders feared the loss of language, culture, and traditions. The Inuit leaders visualized a land that was theirs and the ability to influence the politicians of the day. And the average Inuk wanted more say in how programs and services were delivered, as they felt that their needs were not being met. Nunavut was created by the vision and struggle of the Inuit, the support and cooperation of Inuit organizations and residents of the territory who were not Inuit or who are not Inuit, and the power, authority, and financial support of the federal and territorial governments. Through a series of negotiations, agreements, and finally an Act of Parliament, Nunavut Act, the territory of Nunavut, was created, and an administration was put into place to make it all happen. On April 1, 1999, Nunavut was officially born, and there was a great deal of pride by all people of Nunavut, matter of fact, all people of Canada. In 1999, commitments were made to build a healthy communities, support continuing education, foster simplicity and unity in the administration, and promote self-reliance for the communities. The first government laid the foundation for healthy, self-reliant, prosperous, and uniquely Nunavut form of government. Our political system is a consensus government, which is the Inuit way. We do not have a party system. We have 19 elected members of the Legislative Assembly of Nunavut, and 8 of them serve as Premier and Ministers. The Premier and the Ministers are elected by these 19 members of the Legislative Assembly. Our government is decentralized. We have located 440 headquarter government jobs into 10 of the larger communities, and the positions were staffed over time. We established a target of 85% Inuit higher. The percentage of Inuit in the general population, and to accomplish this, we established priority hiring policies and the Sivuliktikset training program, which means our future leaders, to increase Inuit representation at the manager and director level within the government of Nunavut. We are increasing the use of Inuksuit in government business through language workshops and the creation of a web-based Inuksuit dictionary. We have established Inuit Kauyimayatuhangit. I'd like you to say that. Inuit Kauyimayatuhangit, Inuit traditional knowledge, to use our past to guide our future decisions. We are promoting better health amongst our people in the communities. Telehealth allows for physicians and other professionals to examine patients and recommend service without requiring that the patient leave their community. All communities in Nunavut now have access to telehealth system. Through Nunavut College, we continue to train Inuit nurses to fill positions in hospitals and health centers in the communities. We have opened or reopened Royal Canadian Mounted Police detachments in all of our Nunavut communities. The GN is helping to train more Inuit as RCMP constables to ensure the language capability and the cultural understanding that only Inuit can bring to the job. This program has seen much success over the period of years, and at least one graduating class per year has expanded the force's Inuit content. We have put into law a Nunavut Wildlife Act that incorporates traditional Inuit concepts around hunting and continuing to promote the link between Nunavut Inuit and sustainable harvest and traditional use of seals, resulting in a 10-year high in the value of sealskins. In the area of economic development, we have established new territorial contract guidelines to promote Inuit, local, and northern businesses. We have developed a cooperative working relationship between Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated to realize the implementation of the Nunavut Land Claims Agreement. The Parliament of Canada enacted the claim on July 9, 1993. Together, the Nunavut government and Nunavut Tungavik participate on resource management boards, strategize on employment training programs, provide programs for targeted groups such as elders and youth of Nunavut, and overall strive to improve the living situation for all residents, in particular the Inuit residents of Nunavut. The challenge of Nunavut government has and will continue to address those many issues for small population spread over a huge territory to function in a harsh climate without roads connecting our 25 communities or municipalities. To have 4 official languages, but only one that is used predominantly in a day-to-day bureaucratic activities. The government is challenged to accomplish this with minimum resources for both finances and infrastructure. The overall educational level of residents is low, and the unemployment level is high. Our population is young, and they are anxious to embrace the future with all the benefits they hope to obtain. We have a very high rate of suicide, particularly our youth in Nunavut. At least 1 in 8 commit suicide. Our people continue to work to try and find answers to this problem. I think we need to teach our young people about their own history at a high school level. I think then we can build a higher esteem among our youth, who are our ultimate future. We continue to face a high rate of shortage of housing. In many places in Nunavut, we sometimes have 10 to 20 people living in small 3-bedroom houses. This creates an unhealthy atmosphere or lack of space for Inuit to study at home or do their homework. In order to house everyone, to meet the Canadian standard of living, we require at least 3,500 houses, minimum. In the Arctic, we live with the climate change and global warming. This issue is here to stay. We all better get involved by asking questions of our respective governments about what we need to do something about it. I was born in an igloo, a snow house, and lived the life of a traditional person for the first 12 years of my life. Inuit are observers of the environment. This is because we survive from the animals and fish that live on this earth. To us, survival has always been our priority. And to survive, we needed the land and all of its renewable resources. We are hunters and gatherers. Our way of life in the past and the limited population who lived in the Arctic allowed the Inuit and the land to live in mutual support and of each other. Our traditional society was a disposable one, but we did not pollute. We always wanted to have clean land and enough animals to live on forever. We did litter, but all of the time materials used were biodegradable. We used our igloo and sought houses and then moved on. In the spring, the snow melted and cleaned up the site with no difficulty. Whatever was left, animals took care of it. When we abandoned old clothes, they rotted and turned back to the land. We might turn our noses up today, but the dogs, the gulls, and the ravens cleaned up human waste. Little, if anything, polluted or littered the train after a relatively short period of time. We have always been dependent on harvesting wildlife and marine mammals for our food. In addition to the food, we obtain skins for clothing and style, skins and bones for implements to support our lifestyle. We shared with our neighbors and traded with our friends, other Inuit groups, the Dene, and eventually the white man, to obtain what we did not have and needed. Our cultural, physical, and economic survival depended on the availability of abundant and healthy stocks of wildlife and fish. We were always aware of the need to protect our environment and are aware consequences there could be if we did not do just that. Since time immemorial, we have harvested and at the same time managed wildlife according to our own laws of wildlife and conservation based on respect of nature. To us Inuit, our culture and language is always ever present. That's the way we did things for many, many thousands of years. We Inuit are the most adaptable people in the world. We have adapted to changes that occurred over a period of time. like natural migration changes. What we are facing today are drastic changes happening within a short period of time, or a lifetime. There is a real threat to our way of life because of climate change and global warming. Back in 1956, the wintertime used to come in early October, and the lakes would begin to freeze. By now, they would be frozen up to about 5 or 6 inches on the lakes. How do I know this? Well, I speak from experience of observing and using the land and the lakes, including the sea and sea ice. I am told that the lakes around Nauyat, Repulse Bay, my hometown, and Rankin Inlet are still not frozen. I spoke to a representative of that community in Nauyat, Repulse Bay this morning. The temperatures are still above freezing. As Inuit, we are already experiencing both positive and negative impacts of climate change and global warming. There is reduced ice in the Arctic that alters the hunting habits of polar bears. More polar bears are coming into our communities looking for food. Warming has reduced the ability of polar bears to hunt on the sea ice. Reduced sea ice has increased the navigability of northern sea routes. Our summers are much hotter today, and winters are very different. Sometimes they are extremely cold. That's different than when I was a young boy. Global warming and climate change have affected our very subsistence. Our weather has changed. Fall comes in later, and spring comes in earlier. We need to act now to think that climate change and global warming are for real in all of the Earth. In the Arctic, we need to become more aware of what is actually happening and start to educate all persons using the land on the current status of the climate and how it affects our use of the land. We now have plants growing where there used to be only permafrost. The caribou cannot cross their channels because of the ice comes in too late. Our temperatures are hotter than they used to be. During my youth, our summer temperatures rarely went above 15 degrees. Now we get some days in the 20s and sometimes 30 Celsius. With these warming temperatures in the Arctic, I am concerned that we will see more disease in the caribou. We also have robins coming into our communities. They are recent arrivals to our communities. The climate changes we are experiencing today are not the result of our actions. Had we never been introduced to the Southern culture, we would still today feel the effect of their energy consumption. Our ever-growing need for energy and benefits of high technology are lost due to our people in Nunavut. We have, in less than 40 years, gone from Inuit oil lamps, only lit with seal or caribou fat, to the high efficiency of central heating system and light. Our own dependence will have an impact in the future. As the realities of climate change and its effect on our habitat and lives begin to sink in within governments and activist groups, and also in everyone's household, there appears to be a wave of awareness and a will to understand and participate in its reversal. We are still subsistence hunters, trappers, and gatherers. Subsistence hunting in Nunavut is taken for granted. There were certain rules and guidelines in place. These traditional unwritten laws, passed on from generation to generation, were there to assist us in our interaction with the environment. We are always aware that we are merely part of the natural scheme of things. Dignity, common sense, and responsibility guide us and act as our environmental code of ethics. To survive as people, we must ensure that our land, water, and food supply can survive and remain as free from pollution as much as possible. One of the areas we are all concerned with is the conservation of energy, the alternate routes to explore in anticipation of a shortage and the increasing of cost of resources currently used. I always support wind energy. There are opportunities to harness wind and solar energy in the Arctic, in the north. Wind energy is environmentally friendly. I have seen it, and you have seen it. Studies have been made. Strategies are in place. Technology is there. Now action is needed. We need to see results. In Nunavut, which means our land in my language, our elders, the young Inuit of today, and those of tomorrow depend on a clean environment. We are a people of the land, and one of our mandates within our government and the surrounding organizations is to protect that land and preserve it for our future generations, mainly our grandchildren and their children. We must conserve its beauty and respect its generosity, using it wisely to ensure the survival and pride of many generations to come. Climate change and global warming are no longer about debating. It's here, it's real, and it's time for action. Thank you very much for listening to me. Yeah, that's a very good question because in some communities in Nunavut, among different Inuit in Nunavut, I have seen, or we have heard reports about Inuit experiencing mercury in different types of animals that we hunt. Sometimes in Arctic char, maybe sometimes in beluga, or sometimes in other animals such as walrus, for example. So it's something that we are aware of, and it's something that our both governments, Canadian government as well as Nunavut government, is trying to get under control. Thank you. Yes? Inuksuit language is shared by Inuit from Russia, Inuit from Alaska, Canada, and Greenland. In Siberia, they call themselves Yupik. They speak the same. You see, our language is one language, and our culture is one culture. But we have many different dialects in different parts of the world. The Yupik speak their own dialect in Russia, as they do in southern Alaska. I know that I have some friends here. I met some friends earlier here. The Inupiaq, another group of Inuit in northern Alaska, have their own dialect. Inuvialuit, another group of Inuit from Northwest Territories in the western Northwest Territories, speak their own dialect. Inuinnaq, which is Nunavut West Inuit, speak their own dialect. And when you come to us, then we are Inuit. And then when you go to Greenland, they have their own dialect as well. So we have one language, but many different dialects in the world, and one culture. That's something that I'm really, really concerned about, because as an Inuk, I am the user of polar bears. My family hunted polar bears as long as there was time in the past. And I'm concerned about it because there's a huge reducing of ice in the Arctic, more and more. You know, last year it was this big, now it's this big. Next year it'll be this big. And they say, particularly the scientists think that it'll disappear within the next, I don't know, 50 years or so. But polar bears will also disappear within a certain period of time. I'm saying that because I've seen some very skinny polar bears. And unlike 40 years ago, 50 years ago, polar bears didn't come to our community as much as they are doing today, because they had lots of ice to hunt from. Today, we're seeing more and more polar bears coming into our communities because they are hungry. They want some food from the community. And it's dangerous because I have also seen several people who have been killed by polar bears. So it's something that we Inuit are extremely concerned about. Government of Nunavut and the Canadian government is trying to do something about. And I think, you know, as human beings, we should have every concern about what's happening today, especially with the climate change, global warming, and its impact on the people, as well as the animals and the environment. So that's a very good question. Thank you for asking that question. I'm sorry, I haven't heard the organization, but I'm sure it's something that's working with the government of Nunavut, as well as Inuit organizations. We're working on the environment, climate change, and conservation of animals as a hunting group or a hunting society. Under Nunavut land claims, we have established Nunavut Wildlife Management Board, which consists of the users, the hunters, government representatives, federal government as well. And together they all work with different organizations in the world. I'm sure it's something that they're doing they're working with in Nunavut, as well as other wildlife groups in Canada. About the oil sands in Alberta. That's a hard question. It's something that I'm not too comfortable answering. But I'm sure it's something that both the government of Alberta as well as the Canadian government is working on. Canadian government, I don't really speak for Canadian government. I'm not official with the Canadian government. But they've done a lot of work in terms of, especially the previous government, and I'm not going to say which party it is, so in case I get into trouble. So I'm not going to say which party, but they've done quite a lot of work on the issue of environment. And it's something that the Canadian government is very aware of. So I'm sure between different levels of government, they're trying to do something to work on issues that relate to oil sands and, you know, what that may be contributing to climate change and global warming. That's all I can say. I'm sorry, I cannot say too much about that. The issue of suicide, that's something that I can answer with great, somewhat confidence. Suicide among Inuit in my time was never in our terminology. When my father used to talk about suicide, he said it used to happen to only the very old people when they felt useless to the society, because we always wanted to look at our future, and that's our young people. Suicide is something very new that started in the 1970s. As I said, we Inuit have moved from an igloo in less than 50 years. And I think many things have contributed to this, because we have moved drastically from an igloo society to the modern society. And I mean, as I said, we're very adaptable people, you know. So we've adopted, and we created a new territory for people of Nunavut. But the thing about that is, I think a lot of the things that we have gone through are too drastic. There's a lot of unemployment among our young people. There's a problem of alcohol, and there's also a problem of drugs. I think a lot of these things contribute to particularly the young people who commit suicide. But it's something that all of us in Nunavut, we're trying to do something about that. I have to do something about it because there's a future of Nunavut. What I tell my fellow Nunavut residents is that I think we should be teaching our young people about their own history, about their own past. You know, not every Inuk grew up with Nintendos and television in my time. And we traveled by dog teams, and we walked many, many miles to go, you know, searching for caribou and fish. So I think our young people, they've increased so much in the last 30 years, and they're at a majority. 50% of our population in Nunavut is under the age of 15. So we have every reason to make sure that there is an end to this suicide among the young. Here is what we're doing. We have hotlines in Iqaluit. We have a group called Embrace Life. We have Culture, Language, Elders and Youth Department in the government of Nunavut. Then we have Inuit organizations. We have the Inuit or municipalities in the communities who are all trying to do something to end suicide in Nunavut. We're trying to educate our young people as much as possible in both traditional way of life as well as modern way of life. And we're going to succeed no matter what it takes. No matter what it takes, we'll succeed to end this terrible sickness. We have both the elementary school and high school in every community now. In my particular time, we went to residential schools. You call them boarding schools in the States. We went to residential schools, church-run, government-run residential schools. So we were moved away from our parents in the 1950s and 60s. Today, every community, 26 of them, they have school, elementary and high school. Let me just tell you a little bit about our education system. We have an education system that allows Inuktitut language, as an example, to be taught in school from kindergarten to grade 3. And from there, it's all English. We also have, after high school, in all of the communities, Nunavut Arctic College, so they can take higher education in their own community to a certain extent. For example, if you want to take financial courses or law courses, then you can go to Iqaluit as well, or nursing school. So every child, whether elementary or high school, is going to school in the community. They are in school, and we are graduating more high school students in the communities. Well, the climate change is something that we were the first ones to notice in the Arctic. Especially with the melting, especially with the change in climate and global warming. And it's people like, from our side, Sheila Cloutier. I'm sure the name is familiar to some of you. I know some of you know Sheila. And to Al Gore. Those two people are the people who were at the front talking about climate change and global warming. I know that Sheila Cloutier was talking about people's side, impact on people. I speak about impact on people because I'm observing climate change and global warming all the time. Living with climate change and global warming is really a pain. It is really, because it's having a lot of impact on hunters and fishers. Sometimes you have people going through the ice. That they've been traveling on this particular ice for the last 30, 40 years. The elders, they're going out fishing and they fell through the ice. Unfortunately, they die. And it's happening in different communities. It's happening in different parts of Nunavut. And my friend and his wife fell through the ice last week in Nauyad Repulse Bay. They were out hunting caribou as well. So it's having that kind of impact on people. We have been talking about climate change with the elders in the communities. Organizations such as Nunavut Tungavik Incorporated, which is the organization that is administering Nunavut land claims monies on behalf of Inuit of Nunavut. They've been getting people together along with Nunavut government to talk about climate change and climate change and global warming as they see it. They're observing climate change and global warming all the time. In the government of Nunavut, as well as Inuit organizations, we have a pretty good idea what climate change and global warming are doing to Inuit hunters and people in Nunavut in particular. And the Canadian government are also trying to do something about climate change and global warming. You may remember a conference of about 2 years ago in Montreal. I think where about 10,000 people attended that conference about climate change and global warming. So people are aware of what's happening in the world about climate change and global warming. And certainly I think Canadian government is also doing a lot of work in terms of climate change and global warming. As I said, I don't speak for the Canadian government. I'm not their representative. So I cannot speak with too much confidence when it comes to Canadian government. But I can tell you, as a hunter and as someone who lives with climate change and global warming, what's happening and what we're doing. We are informing more and more of our people about the impact of climate change through various means such as radio, print media, or television. Let me just give you some examples of what I know about permafrost. Permafrost in the Arctic used to be, give or take, 2 feet below the surface, and you get into the frozen ground. In many, in different parts of the Arctic, there's erosion because of the permafrost is melting. There was a documentary that I saw, and I'm aware of this in a place like Sax Harbor, for example, in the Northwest Territories, where some of the land has eroded because of the permafrost is melting within the town itself. So that obviously has impact on, for example, housing, perhaps, and other things, lakes being, rivers flowing, and things like that. One other community that I'm quite aware of is a community called Tuktoyaktok in the Western Northwest Territories. It's a low-lying community, and there has been a lot of impact on the community because of the climate change. The shores around that community are eroding big time, and the community has been trying to stop it by putting into the shoreline huge rocks along the shoreline of that community. But the water is in different places melting the permafrost, so the houses are shifting. So a few years ago, they have had to move some of the houses to inland, to higher grounds, so that they wanted to have some solution to this problem of erosion about permafrost melting. So that's part of the problem that we're facing in Nunavut. There are a lot of communities in Nunavut who are obviously going to be impacted by climate change down the road. Scientists believe that water will rise 1 meter. It's about 3 feet in 50 years' time. Maybe sooner, I don't know. But obviously, a lot of people are concerned about this in Nunavut, as we are in many different parts of the world. Because some of the communities where towns and cities are situated, the land is very low. For example, in Point Barrow, it's only, I think, 5 feet above the sea level. In a place called Hull Beach in Nunavut, it's about the same thing. Or in Inuksuk in Nunavut on the west coast of Hudson Bay, the land is only about maybe 10 feet, 15 feet above the sea level. So obviously, if the water is to rise, it's going to have a lot of impact on many of the communities, many cities all over the world, guaranteed.
I wanted to say my name is Peter Irniq. I had a chance to meet Peter earlier. I want to thank him very much because I'm the testimony from Alaska as well, and we're seeing we have a lot of the same problems as people, as Peter's people are seeing as well. as if our people are invisible in broader society. We need to take the drastic steps. Our society are not taking the drastic steps that are necessary to curb the impacts of climate change. I'm just very thankful that Peter's going around and educating other people about how our people are disproportionately feeling the impacts of global warming. So thank you very much. And we need to elect a president next year that will.
Let me just take this opportunity to thank all of you for coming to hear me. As I said in the beginning of my presentation, I'd like to be able to leave something that I said as information, gain a bit of knowledge maybe. I don't know. I hope so. It's something that I like to do. I like to inform the world about Inuit culture, language, the creation of Nunavut, because it's a very good story to tell for the rest of the world, and how much we Inuit are involved in running our own affairs. You know, for example, we have 19 elected members, 2 are women. I always say to my fellow Inuit in Nunavut, we need more women in the Legislative Assembly of Nunavut. When we were making the Legislative Assembly of Nunavut under a Nunavut Implementation Commission, we put together a paper for the people of Nunavut to read and to think about 10-member constituency, in which 2 members in the same constituency would be elected. That would be 1 man, 1 woman. And how great that would have been had we succeeded with our proposal to the people of Nunavut. But it was voted negative through a plebiscite. I've been a little bit sad about it, but I always say to my fellow Inuit and people of Nunavut, well, my daughter will take over one day and introduce that gender equality legislative assembly. Let's go for it, shall we? Thank you.
Rock like that is helpful or not?
That's a good one.
Okay.
Yeah, this one's a good one too. Make something out of that.
All right. Anything you see, it's
sure. And this one, we'll make something out of that.
okay.
Oh! Yeah.
Probably we can move.
Mm-hmm.
Some of these, if they seem good.
This one's good.
Good.
Yeah, looks like this is more flat than the other. This one is very. Okay. Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh, look. So if that's the one of the top pieces, then we can put this on top like this. So it's going to
Yeah?
this one.
And then you make your window on that?
Then I make my window. I may not use these ones, but
You get the idea.
yeah.
Yeah.
Like that.
And then your pointer on top?
Yeah. Could go something like that. So that should be the top piece. And once it's up, 4 feet up, it'll look pretty good. Okay. If you put it there, I'll do something about it and see what I can come up with. Tomorrow we'll have to get a prospector's hammer to break off pieces. Yeah.
Make sure it's on two when you turn it on. And then this is on.
Yeah, I think so. We'll go over there and I'll go over here.
Like this you do?
Yeah. Go this way. Yeah. Okay.
Casey.
You got it? Oops. You got it? Yeah. It's very solid like that, eh? I need to make this more level.
Yep.
And to find another head or another pointer, maybe higher, this and this way.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's out in the distance, and maybe he sees a good caribou hunting place, or it could be a good fishing place. Inukshuk is always for survival. So Inuit made inukshuk, inuksuit for plural, for survival, so that other travelers will survive from knowing this inukshuk is in a good hunting place or a good fishing place and so on. Good. There were some people who were trying to say that Inuit made inukshuks because they were bored. Well, of course not.
It's a lot of work to be bored.
Yeah, lots of work to do when you're bored.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, well, we're going to go find Mom and then we come back.
The man-made outside. she's making one of those. You want to make one of those?
I finished.
Okay. Make it higher rather than wider. That's good. Good for you. Wow, you're fast.
Do you know that you're making it just like the artist is making his?
Maybe.
You know what? It might be. Put them apart. We're going to glue them to the
You're
board.
going to tell her where to put them, okay?
Well, why don't?
Mama's got a glue gun at home too.
More of this.
Are the rocks all from down by the water? From the property? From the property, yeah.
Okay.
How long does it take to cement? Bring it out this way?
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
The bottom is very important because
Yes.
you don't want it to move, eh?
Right.
Okay, we give it a try there. Okay. Okay. Put cement here.
A little more here?
Yeah. And be generous on this one. A bit more. We also got these two from down the beach today. So I picked this up. I found it.
Oh, right.
Yeah.
Okay, that's a
It's
nice one.
different now because. So I built this inukshuk to be noticed by other people. You know, if you build it just a pile of rocks without this, it wouldn't look very nice. On top, here, where the walls are for the window,
Yeah.
I wanted a bit of a shoulder on each side.
Yeah.
And to have an impact on the inukshuk itself, and that's what we have.
From pointing up and back, and also from our
Yeah,
exhibit.
sure. Yeah, and remember this one was underneath here, down here.
I do.
But what I wanted also was to see to make it a traditional look as much as possible. So I wanted this further up because it has lichen.
Yes.
And people will naturally like it because of
Yeah.
the
And as the lichen,
yeah.
and as the lichen grows
Yeah.
slowly, it will.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. Hopefully, it will
Yeah.
still grow in this position.
Eventually it will.
Yeah.
Yeah. So there's lots of traditional look to it.
And the loose stones on here, should we keep them there, or are those things that people?
Sure. I mean, if they move them, that's okay too. But I guess just leave them there. They add to the the look of the
That's fine.
look of the inukshuk.
I guess.
Yeah. So it looks very nice now.
I think
It
so.
looks pretty good, better than the one I made in the beginning.
Yeah.
Yeah. The one I made in the beginning was just to see how much I would have to do, how much change I would have to do. You know, I'm quite satisfied. I will leave satisfied that this is what I make and the way it looks. I'm happy about it.
Very good. And we will be too.